Oj Kosovo t'jep lirie, do kur shpije një bajra, u qekeja paska hije, për atë dhe po t'erdhe t'gja, po luftojnë djepte Kosovës prej Trenicën Margjakovës.
We'll do a little bit of Joe Rogan action here, okay? Today, you guys know me, right? You guys have seen me around. I'm Danny. I'm a catechist here. This is my cousin Tony. And today we're gonna go and we're gonna do what's called a testimony. He's gonna share his testimony. We're doing it like this so it can be like interview style, and I can ask him some questions, and we can kind of dig deep in there, and keep it conversational. It's a little bit more interactive. And so a testimony, what a testimony is when someone gives a testimony to something they've witnessed. So like, for example, a witness, when you go to court, gives a testimony because they say, hey, I was there, I saw, what's your name? Cassie? I saw Cassie kill so-and-so, right? I'm an eyewitness to somebody murdering. I'm an eyewitness that she murdered someone. That's a testimony, right? Or it can be the opposite. What's your name? David. I can say, oh, David was not there. He was with me when you're accusing him of killing so-and-so. So that's a witness. I've seen something, or I was present, or I experienced something, and I'm testifying to it. Only a witness can testify. If you're not a witness or an expert, you can't testify. They're not going to call me up there if I wasn't there because I can't testify. So someone who testifies is someone who has witnessed and seen something. And now we're saying testimony. Well, what we're saying testimony is that Tony and myself, and I hope hopefully all of you will have a testimony because you have witnessed and seen the goodness of God in your lives. And so we're gonna go through Tony's life like a story, and we're gonna see how God spoke to him and how the world and the devil led him astray for a period of his life, and then God came into his life. And he's gonna share that. He's gonna share his darkness, and then he's gonna share how God broke into his life and showed the light. So I'm gonna be talking a lot less. He's gonna be telling us his story, and he's gonna testify to what he's witnessed, that Jesus Christ is Lord, and that Jesus Christ loves him and came into his life and rescued him from a life of sin, like he did me and like he's gonna do for you. So this is to be shared for you. All right, Tony. So I guess let's start in the very beginning, long, long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, in a country far, far away, in a place with valleys, Kosovo.
Yeah. Yep, so born in Kosovo in 1996. During that time, as maybe some of you know, there was turmoil between the Serbians and the Albanians in Kosovo. And this is a few years before the war broke out. And in 96, like I said, born there in the middle of kind of a war zone. And very, very first, I guess the first thing that I remember in my life, my first memory, you could say, me and my cousin were in our front yard, in my uncle's front yard. We're playing with sticks and stones and stuff like that. And hanging out, and my uncles had a bunch of all their houses all right next to each other, and then they had one road that connected to the main road that you had to drive down. When people turned down that road, you were coming to see our uncles. Like that road only led to us. It was a dead-end road. And me and my cousin are out there playing, and the military trucks, Humvees, tanks start coming down that road. Just dust is flying everywhere. And my mom, from the inside of the house, starts screaming, come inside, they're here. And after that, I mean, I'm not, it is hazy because I was about 3 years old, so that was my very, very first memory as to, what I can remember, what happened in my life. From there, the Serbs came into my uncle's house, as they did to a lot of people's house. They broke in, they took whatever they wanted, they did whatever they wanted. And nobody in here was a soldier. We were all just civilians. Nobody came, they weren't, this wasn't an action of war. This was definitely a war crime.
And just to explain, like when things got bad in the war, a lot of families would get together, so you wouldn't be alone because it's very scary, especially at nighttime.
Right.
You're by yourself at home and there's a war going on, so that's why your family, your dad, your mom, everybody was at his uncle's house, and his brother everybody was kind of like, as much as you could fit into a house, you were together, because it would be scary to be just left
Yeah.
home alone, you know?
Of course, yeah. You stayed together and you didn't stay in one spot for too long. So one night at the uncle's, one night here, one night there. So you're bouncing around trying to avoid the soldiers as much as possible. But as it happened, they came in that day. They found us there, and they round us up in the living room there. And they took my dad and they took my uncle, my mom's brother, and they took them in a separate room. And they kept us. A couple soldiers went with them. A couple soldiers stayed with us in the living room there. And we didn't see anything. We just heard loud banging and rumbling and fussing. Like I just take this table, rattling stuff, pounding. And they come back in just bloodied up, head to toe, both my dad and my uncle. And the Serbs made it very clear to them that if they were to be seen again, that'd be the last thing they saw was the Serbian soldiers. They would have killed them. And that's when we really started to plan an escape route or think about leaving our country. And shortly after that, me and my family of 5, my 2 sisters, my parents, we got shipped off to Tetov. We left our house in Kosovo, got shipped off to Tetov, Macedonia, where we were in refugee camp. And we left my grandparents home. They like you guys probably have grandparents at your house. Grandparents, they don't like change. My grandparents were willing to die in their own house than to leave their home. They lived there for 70 plus years, and they decided, okay, if they come and they kill us, they kill us. At least we're going to die in our house. But for the sake of the kids, I was 3. My little sister was 6 months, 7 months old. Older sister was about 7 or 8. My parents decided that they would have to leave. And it was very tough on my parents. They were 30-something, early 30s, late 30s. They lived in one spot their whole life, grew up, and that's where they started their life. And just let it all go and really take nothing with you.
And you don't know what you're coming back to, too, because
exactly.
They came in there and, the house would be lit. And I remember when I went to your house after the war,
Yeah.
when you had to come to America,
Yeah.
I'm just jumping ahead real fast, but when I went on vacation after the war, I remember when I drove up to those blue gates of your house, there was bullet holes all inside the gates. So you know how back home, I don't know if you guys have ever been back home, how they have their yard kind of like fenced and they have the gates. And I drive up there and there's bullet holes all over the gates. They had shot up the house.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And obviously you don't realize this when you're a kid, but as you grow older, the sacrifice that my parents made to get us to come here is insane. I'm 26 right now. If you tell me to move 5 miles up the road, I'll have to think about it for a couple years. Then to go 6,000 miles across the ocean, just start over, no school, no language, you don't know anybody, you don't know anything, and just to come here, like many of us, very similar stories, your parents or your grandparents or somebody from your guys' family came from either Kosovo, Albania, or Malsi at some time. And it was a big sacrifice that they did for us.
So you escaped across the border and you went into Macedonia, into Tetov. Did you go with a bus, or you guys drove there together? How'd you guys escape?
We were they put us in a trailer.
A trailer?
So yeah, we were, a tractor was pulling us on a trailer, covered us up with a tarp so we wouldn't be seen, middle of the night, took us over there. So basically shipped like hay.
Like contraband.
Yeah.
You were contraband.
Exactly, yeah.
And you guys crossed the border, probably had some money to bribe some guards along the way
in
order to make sure that you made it safely.
Yeah. And we get into camp, and again, looking at it again in hindsight from my parents' view, I was 3 years old, my sister's 6 months old. How do you're in a camp with hundreds, maybe thousands of people sleeping on the floor. What happens if somebody gets sick? What happens if somebody has a cough? What are you going to do? There's no medication. It's not like we're eating really good food either, just some bread and some cheese every day.
So in a refugee camp, because I'm sure many don't know what a refugee camp is, that's so far removed, you lived in a tent, literally in like a plastic tent that was set up by the United Nations.
Yeah, exactly. We were in big tents, and there was no rooms dividing anybody, so there was
no running water,
no bathrooms. You had holes in the
closets.
ground. Yeah, there were no closets. There's no privacy. You're sleeping next to a different family, and then they're next to a different family. It's just a bunch of families all escaping the war, coming here to try to survive.
How long did you stay in the camp?
About 3 months.
3 months. I think you have a picture of it, right?
Yes.
Victor, can you pull on the screen? We'll show a picture while we're talking. So you're in the refugee camp, and you say 6 months in there. What was that? I mean, you were small, but what was your experience with your parents?
Well, I mean, I hear my parents tell me, I mean, there's kids who got sick and ended up dying in their parents' arms. Nobody can do anything about it. There's no doctors. There's no medication. Kids, like I said, you get sick, you're sleeping on the cold, hard ground, you're going to get something. Some type of infection, an open wound. There's, again, you have no running water. Nothing is clean. So kids were dying left and right, getting bit by snakes, people fighting over food, people fighting over room in the tent. It was not an ideal situation.
Yeah, of course, especially with the family.
Yeah. That's part of a good part of what our parents did for us to come here.
So then, I remember my dad was talking. I don't know how they communicated. There was a way to communicate.
Right.
They had because there's obviously run by
Red Cross.
by the Red Cross. Yeah, it was a Red Cross camp. Yeah, it was run by the Red Cross. So there was a way to communicate with your parents. At certain times, once a week, you can make a phone call. And I remember my dad, because this is before cell phones, before any of that stuff existed, try to get you guys, to come here on a visa, on a refugee visa.
Right.
And actually went through and got the communication somehow to your dad, and you guys boarded on a flight and came to the good US of A.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can't really get much luckier than that. I mean, obviously not luck at all. It's God's providence and His plan. But again, very, very different way of coming here, different way of starting your life, but that's...
So when you came here then, obviously you guys didn't know anything. You guys lived with us for, I remember you guys lived with us for a few months. You guys lived with us. And from there, you guys got an apartment and began your life in the United States. Your dad did construction back home. He had worked in Germany too, did a little bit of construction. So you guys began your life over here, and you started like any other. I mean, you're young, so you picked it up right away. You know what I mean? It's not hard for you to learn.
Yeah, and again, I mean, I'm gonna reference sure, I was there. I can claim that I'm a refugee as well. But when you're 2, 3 years old, 4 years old, you don't really know anything what's going on. You don't know what it took to get here. You don't know. How hard you have to work to start a life in a new country. And my parents worked their butts off 24/7, both in the house and out of the house, trying to, number one, keep us alive, allow us to succeed somehow financially, socially, to be a part of society, but also keeping us together as a family. A lot of times if you have sort of a rougher start to life, or something tragic happens, a lot of families do end up dividing, or something happens and then people get mad and divorce happens, somebody runs away, people split up when adversity hits. And my parents did a good job of not letting any of that stuff happen. So when hardship happened, we stayed together.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it didn't come out of the adversity. Obviously came, but what because I know your parents very well, obviously. What kept them together, in particular your mom, was having the faith. She had that traditional Albanian, customs and tradition, which she instilled in all of you. But she also was a woman of faith, and so was your dad. But even more so, your mom.
Right.
And you guys were a family of prayer, and you guys consistently prayed the rosary together, and you grew up in that mini culture.
Yeah, exactly. From a very young age. I mean, all we did was pray, and again, my mom did sort of the ringleader of that. And my mom has a sister who's a nun, so we come from a very religious family. And like you said, it was instilled from us, very, very young age. We pray the rosary together. We pray before meals. We pray after meals. We pray consistently. And again, yeah, for sure, that definitely was the glue that kept us together through ups and downs. Because you get to America and then you think the struggle wasn't over. Now you're poor and just in a different country. You got nothing. Yeah, I had no.
You got a toilet, but
I got a toilet. Yeah, exactly. But who's going to pay the water bill? How are you going to do that? So, one thing after another. There's always a battle. Always a battle. Whether it's in life like that, or you're constantly battling sin, and you got to have something to fall back on. You got to have something that's consistent, because there's so many variables. Things change. You think you get over one obstacle, you think you made it, and then boom, you get hit in the face. If you don't have something to fall back on, which ours was our prayer, our faith, the world's gonna eat you alive.
Yeah. So, excuse me. When you're in this time period, I mean, you're obviously, because I want everybody to understand that the kind of the culture that you came out of.
Yeah.
You were going to mass every Sunday, what became a habit, because there's a lot of families, that come from back home. Some are more religious, some are non-religious. Mm-hmm. But obviously, you had that background, like you had at least a custom, you had at least a form of the faith. You know what I mean? Where you went to mass every Sunday, it was a habit.
Exactly.
It was a habit that you went to mass and you prayed, your family prayed together. So, you weren't one of those Christmas and Easter Catholics, your family, at least.
Right, exactly, yeah. From a young age, like you said, I mean, it was abnormal for us to miss a Sunday. I don't remember ever missing Sunday Mass together with our family. So they did a really good job of really getting that moral compass down. So anytime there was no sleeping in on a Sunday. There was no not going to church on a holy day obligation. We celebrated feasts. We, even together as a family with our extended family, we pray at feasts. Like, we were very, very deep into our faith.
And obviously, you come from that tradition of, you come from a war, and you have that pride as an Albanian. So that's all in the background. So now you're going to school. Your family's obviously they're growing in prosperity too, because your dad didn't know the language, but he learned the language.
Right.
Worked for a company, started his own business eventually, and you work with your dad. You learned a job. Your mom was working. Your sister started to work.
Right.
Everybody, it was you grew not only in knowledge of America and language, but you also grew in prosperity, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was coming from absolutely pretty much nothing, and like I said earlier, my parents did work their way up, so we were able to make gains in our faith, financially, socially. Moved out of the apartment, got a decent house, nice cars. We were on the come up, living the American dream. Yep. We were a good example of coming from foreign country and really making a life here in the United States. And yeah, like you said, I mean, I work with my dad. I tried to be the best. I tried to really be proud of who I was from where I came from. Okay, we came from nothing. My dad started a company. I'm going to work with my dad because this is what we do. Like, we work hard. It was the kind of way, like, I took on that personality of, like, yeah, we work hard. Like, this is who we are. We work hard. Yeah, we go to church. We pray. Like, I was pumped up from an early age. Like, I was excited about who I was. I was very prideful. I was very proud of my family and who we were.
Yeah, and so, because the reason why I bring it up, too, is because I don't want people to get the misnomer that you came from poor, and then you remain poor.
Right.
But as you spent time in the United States, you got everything that you wanted.
Yeah.
As you grew up, when you went to middle school, you went to high school, you had any clothes you wanted, you had money, the money was not really an issue in the household.
Yeah.
Obviously, so everybody has ups and downs, but generally speaking, money was not.
We were comfortable.
Yeah.
And I mean, just to extend my comfort, I was the only boy. I was getting showered with praise and love, and I was spoiled.
The only Albanian boy.
I was the only boy in the family. So everybody, I mean, I did definitely. There was a noticeable difference in how my parents treated me versus my sisters. Yeah. Right, wrong, or indifferent. I was spoiled from my whole life.
Yeah, you got away with a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
your sisters definitely don't. Right, Bit?
Yeah.
So now, I guess you're known for throwing the football around a little bit. Let's get into that a little bit, because we're at a point in your life where you're getting older. You're in middle school, starting high school, kind of like the age of these confirmation candidates. What happened? What's going on in your life in this period? What's going on to you spiritually? What's going on in your life, at home, and kind of how does Tony become Tony today? Because now you're going into adulthood. When you're a kid, you're just a kid.
Right.
But now, as you turn 14, 15 years old, who you are today started back then as you started becoming into a young man. Mm-hmm. And who was Tony as a young man?
So like you said, I've thrown the football around. I've been in sports kind of my whole life, and what drew me in at a young age was, and I mentioned pride a couple times, but the attention that I was getting in sports. I mean, I was blessed with athletic ability. I had height, I had the frame, and I had the talent, and I loved the praise that I got from the athletics. Like one specific time when I was in like 7th grade or something, I was getting out of a practice. I'm walking through the gym, there's a full gym, there's a volleyball game going on. Bunch of people in the stands watching this volleyball game. I'm walking out and everybody starts chanting my name out of nowhere. I didn't even, like, I think my buddies were in the stands and they were just trying to mess with me, but they were just like,
Tony,
and
everybody
starts going, even parents started chanting Tony. I'm like, what the heck is this? I'm like, this is awesome. And then
you weren't even playing, you're out of the locker room.
Yeah, exactly. I just got out of the locker room, I'm trying to go home. And I'm telling you, it was like I got hooked up to like an IV. That was a drug for me. I was like, this is what I want all the time in everything that I do. I want to be this guy that everybody's going nuts for all the time. So that's when I really fell in love. And how to get that, in my mind, I said, okay, athletics is my way that I can really make something for myself, because I just fell in love with the praise. And again, tying it in, like as I grew up and started playing more, I was fortunate to be blessed with the talent to be good. I was productive on the field, but my main thing, I just loved the attention. I fell in love with people telling me congratulations, good job, hey, great game, you're the guy, you're the man. Like that was my addiction, so I struggled. I was torn between two worlds, right? So with my family being super religious and super, trying to keep me as into the faith as possible, I was getting tugged away. I was getting tugged on this direction by my parents, my moral compass, my faith upbringing, and then now I'm getting all this attention and glory from athletics, the world, and everything that comes with being, like a star athlete. There's a lot of baggage that comes with it, a lot of bad stuff, a lot of things that really could derail your faith, and that started to hit me like very, very soon in the locker room in high school. I mean, people talk in the locker room, right? So a couple guys asking me, hey, this and that about girls, and when I told them I was a virgin, everybody in the locker room starts cracking up. Everybody starts laughing at me, pointing at me, like, what the heck is this guy? Like, this guy's supposed to be, he's our guy.
Yeah, he's our leader, he's the virgin.
He's the captain of the team, dude. He's out, like, he's the guy. We're cheering for this guy, dude. This guy's a kid, So I was embarrassed. I was ashamed. It was insane, because it's so weird, because if I were to say that, if I were to tell my parents that, they would have been so happy. I tell the guys in the locker room and they get mad. So it was completely polar opposite worlds that I was living in. And I was trying to do my best to live in both. During that time, I struggled a lot with lustful temptations and impurity and really battling, to find an outlet again, because you get made fun of here. You have so many different things that are just clouding your mind. And I really, really struggled with that for many years of my life. And throughout high school was tough. Like I said, I was trying to live in that balance.
Yeah, because you're ninth grade, you're a freshman, and you're definitely getting noticed. You know what I mean? You're getting noticed, and you have everybody in high school. They're kind of like, they're giving that praise, and you love it. I mean, you're at home, and you have that Albanian tradition. I remember we were talking the other day how you said to me, you felt like you didn't feel at home, and you didn't feel at home with your friends.
Exactly. Yeah, I felt foreign everywhere I went. Like I felt like I didn't belong, even though I was extremely loved and extremely praised. I felt like I was see-through. Like I was just transparent. I go hang out with my friends. They think I'm the man, but inside I know everything that I'm doing is against what I'm supposed to be doing. Like I have the answers to the test. I know 2 + 2 is 4, and I'm consistently putting 5. I keep doing it in public, and everybody loves it, and I hate that I'm doing it, but I'm still doing it because I love the attention. It's an insane just cycle. They like it, I hate it, I do it anyway, I regret it. They like it, I hate it, and then I go home, I try to be, the goody two-shoe guy, the normal guy, the guy who prays, and then I know, okay, I'm thinking about what I just did last night. It's like, okay, I'm living a double life. And I don't know how, but people bought it. People believed me. People thought I was a good guy. I felt transparent. I felt like I was very see-through. But I guess, I mean, I was able to camouflage and live a double life, but it was eating me away inside. Really, really, really eating me away for many years. And that whole, from high school and then even deep into college, it was just back and forth between, I know I shouldn't be doing this, I'm gonna do it anyway because I wanna be a part of the group. And it was, again, a vicious cycle.
Yeah, so you're a sophomore, and part of that attention is coaches pick you. And what do they bring you up to varsity? You know, you're playing football and you're getting attention and you...
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was the only sophomore on the varsity team. And during one of the games, I made a big play in the whole crowd. And we were having like 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 people at our games, and the whole crowd started chanting, "He's a sophomore." I'm like, okay, obviously they're talking about me, you know? I got the whole crowd on my side, and then again, back to that sixth grade rush I just felt like I was gonna pop. Like, this is awesome. Like, this is what I love. This is it. Like, this is why I'm playing. And again, with being noticed, people start to know you. You start to get attention from the school. And I went to Dakota High School. I graduated with like almost 1,100 kids. Like, it's a big school. We had thousands of kids at the school. So with that success on the field came a lot of the love off the field. I mean, guys wanted to be around me, girls wanted to be around me. It was it got harder and harder not to act on those lustful temptations that I was having pretty much in years before this. So it's like I have access to everything that I ever thought I wanted. It's all right there. I'm a fingertip away from anything I want. Back to being spoiled. I felt I was like invincible. And on a world sense, I almost was. I could do whatever I wanted to do. Teachers were on my side. If I was late, I didn't get in trouble. I was late for homework, they didn't care. They let me turn in late. I got cut slack a lot because of who I was on the field. So. Yeah,
and then so you get that attention, and I'm sure then, you know, you get into that, you're in high school, you have the party life, you know, and does that darkness spill into like different areas of, you know, you're not only now you're getting away from home, and not you're running away from home, but you're leaving out, you're not hanging out anymore with home. You're not anymore hanging out with your parents, you know what I mean? And you're going out now, and whatever was in school is now after school as well.
Yeah, exactly. It just gets increasingly harder and harder to fight temptation. The temptations just got bigger and bigger. And my ease just kept getting easier and easier. It was so easy for me to do whatever I wanted. We'd play games, we'd go, and then we'd go straight to parties after games. And we were really good, we were undefeated. So we'd have parties at the quarterback's house. You got hot tubs, you got pools, you got girls. Everybody's like, you almost feel like you're invincible. You're kind of living in a movie. And I really took on the stereotypical like jock persona. I went, played football, I partied, I did whatever I wanted, and I had a good time there. But then I wake up the next morning being really, really irritated and shameful of myself. I wake up on Saturday mornings after Friday night's game and going out Friday, walk in the living room, my mom's on her knees praying the rosary. I'm like, what the heck? Like, what if she's asking me, oh, what'd you do last night? I'm like, we just sat around and hung out. Like,
yeah,
you know, jumping off the back porch into pools. Like, she didn't know what the heck I was doing, you know? And I was, again, living a double life, telling her, oh, we went bowling. I was hammered last night till 4 o'clock in the morning. You didn't bowl anything, you know? And again, it's slowly eating at me away, eating away. It's just continuously lying and living that double life.
So you told me that story the other day about how, you know, your mother almost caught you.
Yeah, we were, after one of our wrestling meets, we had a party at this guy's house.
So not only were you a star football player, but you were also excellent wrestler, and you took, was it second place your senior year? Second in the state? Yep. Anyways, sorry.
Yeah.
So, because they
Thanks
don't know.
for adding to my hype, man. It's got a rush. One night we're out and people are drinking, people are smoking. I'm doing both, and I get home, and I am under the influence heavily, and I go in the house, I see my parents on the couch, I say hi, and go right to bed. I try to go to sleep as fast as possible. My mom comes into the room and sits like right next to me, like this. She grabs me, And she's coming in to kiss me, but I can hear her sniffing me. She's smelling me to see exactly. Like, she's like, what's wrong with this guy? She saw something was off, you know? And she looks at me, she's like, would you drink something? You smoke something? I was like, no, what do you mean? I'm just tired, I'm just going to bed. And she hugs and kisses me, leaves the room, and I went to bed. I wanted to just like rip myself in half. I'm like, I lied. I lied to her face multiple times, like right there. She's looking at me. The first thing she did was kiss me, and then I just lied to her. I just felt disgusted with myself. And again, I didn't even know how am I supposed to feel? Like this lady and then you start thinking about what these people did for you to get here, the journey that we just talked about for the last 20 minutes to get to America, and now I'm here getting hammered, getting high, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm coming home late, and I'm lying, and they think I'm some goody two-shoe. I'm throwing away everything they did for me. Everything they did for me, I'm saying, thanks, but I'm good. This is what I'm gonna do with my life. The opportunity that you gave me, I'm gonna waste it with stupid things.
So now this only intensifies as time goes on, because you get noticed in the field, and scouts come to your game, they see you, and you get a lot of offers. I remember we went to go to the Michigan State game. I didn't go to Buffalo with you, but your dad, I think you went to Buffalo, and finally Western Michigan offers you, and you thought it was the best opportunity, the most playing time you'd probably see.
Right. Yeah, definitely. You want to go somewhere good. I had a shot to play fairly early in my career, so again, to keep that momentum from my high school, the last thing you want to do is go ride the bench somewhere. So I went to Western, 2015. There, June 13th, 2015, first day on campus. And it was the first time I was living alone. I was 18 years old. I moved out of the house at 18 years old. And again, coming from a household who is hyper-religious, with very, very strict parents, and now I'm on my own. I'm 18 years old. I got my own place. I got my car. I can do whatever I wanted.
And you have all the hype.
Yeah, and exactly.
It's spilled over. Now you're not in a campus of 3,000 students. You're in a campus of 35,000 students.
Right.
And, so you went to Western. You enrolled into the engineering program to become an engineer.
Mm-hmm.
And because I'm sure in this whole time, like you said, you're involved in these things. You love the pleasure. You love the world.
Right.
You love the hype. But your conscience is gnawing at you. You feel.
It's eating me alive, and I'm living, again, I know I've mentioned it a couple times, but I'm living a double life. I'm doing everything that, I'm a chameleon. If this group wants me to party and be the guy who gets drunk and gets into a fight, I'm gonna be that guy. If somebody needs me to throw a chair through a window, I'm doing it. Yeah, this is what I do, because, I don't know, 3 guys said I wouldn't do it, now I have to do it. Yeah. That was my whole mentality. And again, I was, all the temptations that I was having when I was 13 years old continued to intensify, and then manifest into my actual reality. My thoughts that I was having when I was a young kid, like you guys' age, now I have it, I can do whatever I want.
Now you have the ability to do.
Now
what was only imagination, now you have the ability to do.
Exactly.
So, you can see the darkness is embedded in your life. When did God start to shine his light? Because I'm sure it didn't just boom, and you, like Saint Paul, we all love those moments. Saint Paul's like, I got knocked out of a horse and I'm on the ground and God is saying, Saul, Saul.
Right.
To most people, it didn't happen like that in my life. It's God's like, it's a little chisel and.
Yeah.
What was that first? I mean, it's probably happened several times. So what was that one where a little bit of light broke through and shined?
Yeah, like you said, I mean, if you guys are expecting for like a big, hey, this happened and now I'm this guy, it's not what happened. There was a lot of trials and tribulations, a lot of ups and downs, but my freshman year in college, Kalamazoo was about 3 hours away. I was living in Kalamazoo, so one weekend, and this is in February, during spring ball, we got weekends off, so I'm like, I'm gonna go home and get a tattoo. I was like, okay. I wanted to get a tattoo for a while, like, I had the date set up, I'm like, I'm going home, I'm getting a tattoo. And insane snowstorm, insane. I had to stop 4 or 5 times, take a break. It took me like 6 hours to get home. And I get home, and my sister, Catherine, texts me. She's like, hey, there's a talk at the church tonight. Come to the talk, and when the guy asks for a volunteer, just raise your hand. I'm like, what's this Morse code instructions? Like, what are you talking about? I'm like, all right, yeah, sure. So it was that night. I get here. It's at our church. It's Jason Everett. I'm sitting on the right side where we usually sit, right outside of our church. Probably, good amount of rows back, not in the front by any means. And it's packed. There's like a bunch of people in the church. Jason Everett. Yeah, just because we were organizing it. Yeah. It was packed. I mean, there was at least 500 people there, if not more, way more than that. Mm-hmm. It was packed in there. All young kids. It was a chastity speaker came to talk, and which is interesting because Kat was not there when we organized it. I don't know. It's divine providence. They just said for you to raise your hand because she came late that day. I remember, like she was not involved in any of the preparation. Yeah, and I had no idea what was going on. I didn't even know what the talk was. So Jason Everett asked I didn't even know who Jason Everett was. I don't know if you guys know him or not, but great, look him up. He asked for a volunteer, and I, again, following those Morse code vague directions, I popped my hands up. And he's like, all right, that guy. He calls me in front of there's a bunch of people who raise their hands. Like, hundreds of people raising their hands, yeah. And he picks me. I'm like, okay, they plan this out.
It's not planned.
Yeah, right. And we go, and he's on the altar, and he gets me on the altar. And his first question, he's like, okay, do you know what this talk's about? I was like, no. And then everybody started laughing. I felt like such a fool. I was like, but it was a little bit of a humbling experience there because, like, okay, now I'm so used to being in front of crowds and I love the attention. And now instead of praising me, I'm getting laughed at. I'm like, this is different, I'm like, I don't know how to act. I start twitching, And he's like, it's chastity. And I'm like, okay, what's chastity? And then he picks me up on his shoulder. And he puts me, like, next to the altar. He's like, oh, I'm going to do it. And he was tying it in with, like, I think it was something to do with, like, sin, the near occasion or something. Like, you could almost fall into, look how easy it is. We're very fragile. But it freaked me out because he's, like, this tall. And I was, like, 240 at the time. So it was scary. But something that, from that talk that came out of it, outside of just being a random guy there and him picking me and Cotton basically kind of, like, foretelling that was really cool now when I look back at it. But some things that he mentioned in that talk, and it was a chastity talk, and like I said, I was struggling very much with my chastity. He says, if you can't say no, then your yes means nothing. Nobody cares if you cannot turn down something. If you're willing to offer yourself to everybody, you're worthy to nobody. Nobody cares. Nobody's going to respect you for being the yes man, to give up your biggest gift to everybody. That's not what you're made for. And he talks about, he says, as for like a representation of your chastity, to buy a candle, like a white candle, keep it in your drawer, and on your wedding day light it with your spouse. And that day I was like, it hit me, and I was like, man, this guy's on to something, And it stuck with me a lot, but again, it held me for maybe a week, 10 days, 2 weeks. I get back to school, I kind of forget about it, and I never bought the candle. It was kind of in my ear, stayed with me, and then out the other. So it was, but that was a little crumb that at least got me thinking more.
Yeah, it opened the door because maybe you didn't go out and buy that candle and change your life, but that's God. He's like how we say in Albanian, a mjeshter. You know what I mean? Like he's forming his mold. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
he's an artist. And he's forming his canvas. He's not done yet, obviously. He won't be done until we're dead.
Yeah.
And hopefully with him in eternal life. But he's forming his canvas. So you go back to school. You're in school, and then unfortunately, you have an injury, ACL tear.
Yep.
You're out your freshman year.
Yeah, tore my ACL, and as it would happen, a couple of my buddies on the team also got hurt that same year.
A lot of free time.
Same time. Yeah, a lot of free time. So when you're hurt, obviously you're not working out, you're not practicing, you're not waking up early. So we were living like Neanderthals. I mean, I'm talking 4 or 5 nights out of the week, you're partying. And I'm not talking about like going out and having beers. Like we're partying hard till 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, coming home, driving on the grass. I'm seeing triple, quadruple, driving home like an idiot for months at a time, like months straight. And one of these times, like it's like a Tuesday night where I should be, studying or sleeping. It's Tuesday night, like 2 o'clock in the morning. We're at some house party, filled with people, packed to the gills. Everybody's hammered. I'm hammered, and I'm like walking around, and my legs are like sticking. Like I feel like I'm stepping in beer and who knows what. But I was like, I just feel disgusting. Like I'm like sticking to this. Like the house itself was trying to walk. The house itself was pulling me back in. That's what it felt like. Like I was trying to move locations. I'm like, let me get away from this. This is let me get away from this sticky spot. I move over here, and the house itself is pulling at me. I can't walk through the house. I felt like, like in a dream, when you have dreams where you can't run. Yeah. I felt like that in real life. I was also drunk too, but
didn't help.
Yeah, right. But literally, the house felt like it was sucking me back in. Like I was trying to physically leave, and I could not leave. And I didn't have like a vision or anything, but I felt like I could see myself from the outside. I'm like, I feel like I'm dead. I feel like a zombie. I didn't even know who I was. And I just felt shame, embarrassment. I wanted to just like literally punch myself right in the face. Like, go home. Like, what are you doing? But if you were to take a picture of that night, you'd see, I don't know, I'd probably having beer in this hand, smiling. But somehow, if you were to, take an X-ray, look through me, you'd see just a wrestling match. Just like my heart going this way, that punching this way, just tearing my insides apart. I didn't even know who I was. Then I started thinking more about my family. Like, okay, my parents are probably sleeping right now. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. They probably worked all day. They got to be up in the morning again. It's like, they're doing all that. They're busting their butts, continuing to do it. They gave up everything they had for me, and I'm over here just, look what I'm doing. 2 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday. What am I doing? But again, that lasted similar to the Jason Everett thing, a couple weeks, a few weeks, and then I forgot about it. I felt really good, I go to confession, I go to mass, I feel great, and then a mortal sin happens, and then what happened with me was I would be good, a mortal sin would happen, and I'd be like, I already did it once, then I would just fall right back into my again, a vicious cycle. And I would forget about the high that I had, the love that I had, the love that I felt when I went to mass, and now I'm back into my old ways.
So, it's a trap that we always fall into.
Right.
We go into sin, and it's a trap the devil plays with our minds. Like, hey, you've already done this. Just stay in your rot.
Right.
So when but that's another sign of light. It's like you had the Jason Everett thing, you had this, and God is like, okay, he's trying to corner you.
Yeah,
he's trying to grab you in the corner and be like, okay,
yeah.
listen to me, I'm gonna have your heart.
Right.
What's another point where God is speaking to you, where things start to matter? Obviously, these are chipping away your life because you're in the darkness. You don't want to give up the darkness. It's a fight. But at what point do you start saying, okay, now I need to go. He's trapping me.
Right. So, got a buddy named John, and John sets me up with this girl. I'm like, all right, I trust John.
John's a good guy.
John's a good guy, yeah, he's all right. We go out to Bar Louie, Partridge Creek. And I'm looking at her, and I look like I'm happy. I'm having a good time. We're talking. Date's going pretty well. But I feel like garbage inside. I feel ashamed of who I am. I feel like I'm lying to her, even though I have not told her anything that I'm not lying to her, but me, how she sees me cleaned up, dressed up, I look like I have my life under control. I felt like I was lying to her. The first time I talked to a bunch of girls, I've never felt like I lied to anybody. Who cares? But this is the only time I'm like, man, what am I doing, And it was weird because we were just talking and talking. And I'm like, man, I felt like I could almost like not even look at her. I felt ashamed of who I was. And we were just talking. No, I felt like also kind of like a psychopath. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, but going out, Jade made me think of who am I? What am I trying to do? You know, because you can't have a serious relationship with anybody and live the way I was living. It's impossible. So it got me thinking, like, okay, I have to choose now. Are you gonna get your stuff under control and grow up, get out of it, and use the gifts that God gave me to praise his name, to bring souls closer to him? Or am I gonna keep doing what I'm doing? Because that's another thing, when you're living a insane life, you're not just hurting your own soul, like you're bringing souls down with you. That video we watched today, the Lifehouse video.
Yeah.
There, I was like, look, I've been every single one of those people in that video. I've been the girl getting attacked by everybody, but I've also been one of those demons that's been pulling people down. I've been the guy who's like he's like, I don't want to go out tonight, I'm gonna stay in. Get up, like we're going drinking, like we're partying, like here's this, look. I've been that guy, the tempter. I've been the guy who's pulling people down, the guy who's not letting people better themselves. There was a good amount of years in my life where I was bringing my own soul down, but I was bringing down a bunch of other souls. And that's, like the biggest regret that I have, that, okay, it's one thing you can correct your own self, you can fix yourself, but you know how many people you corrupt by, they see you party and you make them party, you do this, you do that. It's like, you're taking down souls with you. And when I'm out with her, I'm like, okay, I can't.
I'm not taking this one down.
Yeah, I'm like, there's no way. And
so this one was different because obviously you were never, this is not a train of thought that you had when you were with other people.
I've never thought about somebody's soul until then. I was like, God, I forgot how we had souls. I'm like, this is it, you know?
This person has a soul.
Yeah, like, hi, how's your soul? Yeah, it's like, all right, this guy's a weirdo. But no, that is when I, again, started to really think, okay, what direction are you going to take this? And the next day, we go out again. Same girl. We go out again. We go out to get ice cream, and I'm talking like I don't stop talking. And she doesn't say anything to me. She's like very, very dry, short. Like we're not even having a conversation. Like I'm just talking to a wall. And right away in my head, I'm like, what did she find out? Like, does she really know who I am? And again, I felt shame. Like, there's no way that I could.
But you can see how the sin was attacking you, and like
exactly.
How you knew you were guilty.
Yeah, and the sin was telling me, get away from her. Yeah, the sin was telling me, like, hey, get away from her. Like, get somebody else. Keep doing what you're doing.
That made you feel with that girl who, spoiler, becomes his wife. But how much more now when we're in the presence of God? You know, it's like this girl made you feel like that, okay? Made you stand out like, whoa, but how much more than to say like, oh, look at you, when you want to go to God, it's like, she's a wonderful woman, but she's not God. How much even more so than with God,
right.
That you just feel like, I can't be here. Because that's the tempting of the same, that's the tempting of Satan.
Right.
But it's also our own shame talking to us, like, hey, look at, you're haunted by your actions.
Exactly, yeah, and even, I mean, for a while after that, then I went away to school. This was in August, and we start training camp in August, so I leave for school, and I'm gone for 6 months at a time, and go back into, again, now I'm being tugged even more now. Now, like, okay, you're thinking about becoming, the family guy, this potential great thing in your life, and you have, now you're a starter, now you're the team captain, now you can really do whatever the hell you want. Like, everything is just like it was like the perfect storm, because my status in school shot up, and my
billboards, I remember seeing your billboards everywhere.
Billboards, yeah, it's like, never got paid for those.
So then, I remember you telling me the story about that one time you went to adoration. You came home. It was again a random event where you came.
It was another just random thing. Come home on a random weekend, and again, there's some adoration going on at the church, and I go there, and similar to what we just had here. priest walking around, and I started just bawling, like a kid who just fell down a slide. Like I'm bawling my eyes out, like a kid. You know, I was 20-something years old.
Captain of a team, you know, you're
40, big beard.
Yeah.
Just got a tattoo, so sick. You know? And I'm bawling my eyes out. I'm like, what the heck is going on with me? I was like, can anybody see me? I was trying to hide, and I'm leaking. Like my face is just leaking, pouring out. I'm like, what is going on with me? And then another like crumb saying, everything that what you're doing, you're abusing my gift. I'm looking at the person, I'm looking at God who made me, who gave me everything that I have, my popularity, the characteristics that I have that allowed me to achieve the status that I'm currently in came from him. And what he gave me those for, I'm just abusing them. I'm perverting everything he gave me. My leadership qualities that I've been blessed with from God, instead of helping bring souls closer to him, to save souls, to really help people reach salvation, I'm essentially helping people damn themselves. I'm damning myself and damning a whole community around me. And I just, again, in there, I'm looking at, again, my creator. I'm like, I'm sorry. I felt shame. I was like, I can't, I can't keep doing this. There's no way that I can keep living like this.
So God is cracking in, you know, because even though maybe things didn't stop, you have these moments, and there's several more that we just don't have time to get to, where God just knocks, and you're like, you crack the door open a little bit and a little bit and a little bit, and he brings this woman who is kind of a reflection to you, like, you know, kind of like a mirror, you know, like you're not seeing, like when you look at her, you just see kind of like, oh man, I'm dirty.
Yeah, exactly.
So how did this prompt you to change then?
So, I mean, when you're contemplating marriage and contemplating, you know, having a family, doing all that, you become responsible for your spouse. You become responsible for your family. You are in charge of them. Their souls are in your hands. Like, you are the leader of their family. So if this is potentially going to be a person who is entrusted to me by sacrament of marriage from God, this is my responsibility now. There's no way that I can continue, like, get married and have a family and damn everybody's soul. There's no way. That's not what this is. That's not what I'm going to do. And then really staying close to the sacraments allowed me to kind of break through into break my habitual habits of insanity that I was doing. I mean, I started. I listened to a lot of Census Fidelium videos on YouTube. Father Ripster does a lot of great talks on there.
It's a Catholic channel with a lot of different talks about just all kinds of different stuff, you know, different topics.
Yeah, and this is already after I met, you know, my now wife and stuff, but I'm still kind of going back and forth. I'm like, who am I? Like, what am I supposed to be doing? You know, like, I cannot keep. If I want to have a wife and if I want to have kids who are going to be my responsibility, I can't keep living like this. And in one of the videos, Father Ripster says, to break habitual sin, the rosary. You cannot pray the rosary and continue to live in habitual sin. Those two cannot live together. So he says, if you're struggling with a particular sin that's habitual, that you can't seem to break with, you know, natural or secular habits, pray the rosary every day. And I was like, okay, I tried everything else in the book. I wanted to better myself, but I was doing it in a secular way before this. I wanted to do, okay, I'm not going out, I'm not drinking, I'm not doing this, I'm not playing with my phone, I'm putting my phone in that room, but nothing, it was all temporary. Like, it would work a day, 2 days, 3 days, but I had nothing bringing me back to it to say, there's nothing, I would always be like, it's okay, one time, you know. There's nothing, I didn't have, there's no connection there for me to truly want to stop. I listened to this video talking about habitual sin of the rosary, and I started praying the rosary. Every single day on my way to work, I was working in Dearborn. I was driving about an hour every day, so you can get in like 20 rosaries.
Yeah, man. That's a long time. So, 4 rosaries there and back.
I got to make up for all the days I didn't say the rosary. So I started praying the rosary every day, and a day goes by, a week goes by, a month, and I realized in my life, my habitual sin has discontinued. It just snapped. There's no sense of, I mean, the temptation was still there, but the funny thing is that the temptation never stopped, but I just felt like I could take it. I was just able to fight it. because of my rosary, because I put on basically my shield.
Yeah.
That was my shield. The rosary was my shield that allowed me to fight the battle that I was having. And it honestly, it felt like this was my little personal miracle. Like, I've tried for years to break stuff, to break my habitual sin. You start praying the rosary, a couple weeks in, it's gone.
It's crazy.
Nothing. And I'm the same. And it wasn't. Nothing changed. Nothing changed physically. I was the same guy. Nothing happened to where no tragic event happened to ruin my emotion, my psychology or anything. I was the same guy. The only variable that changed was me saying the rosary. So that was a full credit to God. That's what saved me from living in habitual mortal sin.
Which is crazy because that's like, people have this and they fight it, but it's crazy that you were fighting it, inconsistently using God's means, inconsistently using the world's means, but you do 30 days of the rosary and
gone.
Cut. Which is, it's a testament to Our Lady, her power and her ability to crush the head of the serpent, because we live in a spiritual battle. The devil was clinging to you, so you have this woman who's in your life now. When did you have this experience with the rosary, these experiences with adoration and moments of prayer? When was the decision you made, okay, old Tony is done. By old Tony, not the good things that were in you, but the life of sin in Tony. The life of sin in Tony is dead. Because I remember you distinctly telling me there was a moment where you're like, all right,
yeah, we
I'm
were
done.
out. Yeah, we're out to dinner, and I'm looking at her, I'm like, okay, we're getting married.
Wait, you told her?
No, I said in my head, yeah. She probably heard me. She said, yeah. I'm like, all right, we're getting married. I was like, okay, but before we get married, I have to, fix myself. There's no way, and again, I continue to feel shame. I'm looking at her and your sin haunts you. You're forgiven of your sins, but the devil makes you remember them. He brings them back in your life. Say, hey, you're gonna ruin her. And my wife's 2 feet shorter than me, physically, And I remember I was looking up to her, she's up here. I'm like, dude, there's no way.
How you so tall?
Yeah, those heels. But on a spiritual, she was on a different level than me spiritually, because I was in the dumps spiritually, because again, living like a fool, and there was not. I don't know where I heard this, but I might have been Jason Everett again. He says, love your future wife today. Be chaste, be faithful to your future wife today. And I again, looking at her, and I felt bad for everything that I did before I even knew her. We literally came from two completely different backgrounds. So I just felt like I was.
You felt sin and regret for all the times you hurt her when you didn't even know her.
Exactly, yeah.
You didn't even know her.
Exactly.
Should have bought that candle that Jason Everett was talking about.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, but yeah, and that's when I really homed in and say, okay, this is, if I'm being called to marriage, I have to fix myself. I have to. And
I remember you telling me the story about kind of our shared ancestry, and it's what do you want to be remembered as? You know what I mean?
Right.
In our ancestry, we have martyrs, people who died for the faith, and they're like patriarchs. You know what I mean? You talk about Gig Ballabani, he's a patriarch, of the family and generations, and we all remember that he was a martyr, and in our ancestry, and what do we want to be?
Exactly, yeah, because obviously we're all going to die eventually, and what do you want your kids to say about you? What do you want your grandkids to say about you? What do you want what do I want you guys to say about us? Leaving a legacy behind you is very important to us, and in order to leave a legacy, you have to live a certain way, and living a certain way, you have to live close to Jesus Christ. If you stray away from that path, you will leave a terrible legacy.
Yeah. So we're running a little bit short on time, so we're gonna try to close it in there. Because obviously then you change your life, you change your ways. You started changing your ways before this, slowly.
Right.
God is you're fighting one battle and you're fighting, there's a battle going on. You're a junior when this happens, right?
Yeah.
You're a junior in college?
Yeah.
Where you're like, okay, the Lord has spoken to you, he's put somebody in your life, and you reflect it now, and you're like, all right, and you're changing, you're changing your ways. What can you say now? You feel the Lord calling you, he put this person in your life, you guys get married, you have a beautiful wife, and what can you say today? How is the Lord now, when you look at Tony in high school, okay? If you saw Tony in high school, what would you do? What would you say or do?
I'd hit him right in the mouth.
Hit him in the mouth.
But outside of whooping him, but it's never too early to start, period. Because a lot of times when people hear stories, they say, like, you'll hear, oh, I did so many years of bad stuff, but then I fixed it. Like, people listening, like, it's never too early to start. You don't have to have a period of darkness to get to your light at the end of the tunnel. Start with the light. Because I got very lucky, because there should have been a lot of times where I could have died in a car accident, I could have been arrested, I could have been fighting on the side of the street, I could have gotten knocked out and killed. Like, there's a lot of times that I got lucky to be able to turn my life around. But a lot of people don't get lucky. It's never too early to start. It's never early to live in the grace of God. It's never early to stay close to the sacraments, to continuously go to confession, to continuously receive communion. It's never too early. Don't glorify the life that people want you to glorify. Go have fun, go party, you're young, do it, everybody's doing it. That's not, you will live the rest of your life with regret. It does. Think about how you're gonna feel when you look at in your family's eyes, in your 20s, and you're married. Like, think about the shame you'll feel. It's never too early to start thinking and to stay in the grace of God.
I remember when I saw this change in you, obviously. I remember you in high school, I remember you in college, and I remember this change, when I'd call you to, hey, Tony, let's go, this is after this is after your crazy days, but I really noticed a change in you when I'd call you in front of, like, hey, Tony, let's go have a cigar on Friday night or something, And you're like, I can't, I'm going to mass, and you like made it a habit every Friday night. It's kind of crazy. Friday nights, I'm sure in college campuses out of season was Friday night, right?
Yeah, I wasn't in church.
Yeah, you weren't in church on Friday night.
Yeah.
But you forsake, then that change happens in your life, and I'm calling you Friday night, hey, what you doing? And you're telling me that every single Friday, you're going to downtown at the shrine, and you're going to receive the Eucharist and Mass every Friday. It's not Sunday.
Yeah.
That was extra. It was on top of Sundays.
Right.
And to kind of end it with this is, you look at those Friday night Masses, and we're about to go to Mass right now, and the Eucharist, and you look at the life of what the world has to give to you. Where do you find, because I guess you've tasted both.
Right.
Where do you find joy and fulfillment and peace? Where can you say, if you can have it, Tony, where do you feel complete? Where do you feel where do you feel it?
Yeah. So just, I guess, 3 or 4 years ago, around this time, I'd be in pads playing in front of 70, 80,000 people, crowd going nuts. Now we're here, you and I, in front of maybe 120 kids. The joy and the satisfaction that I'm getting from doing this for these people listening is 10, 20, a million times better than what I had playing in front of those people. Going to Mass on a Friday night versus playing in a game it's here and it's here today, it's gone tomorrow. Nobody remembers anything. Nobody remembers my stats except for me. Nobody cares. When you're with the person who created you, who gave you the ability to play that sport, who gave you everything that you have, talk about camaraderie, you're not going to get closer to anybody besides, it's you and God. It's you and your creator. You think you're having a good time with your boys? Your number one boy is God. The celebration of Mass is something that will give you peace, will give you joy, and really the satisfaction it never gets old. The life, living that life, the games, the partying, that stuff you can only do it for so long before it just leaves a bad taste in your mouth. You're never going to leave Mass saying, I regret going. You're never going to leave Mass saying, I could have been doing this and that.
I could have been partying.
Exactly.
Never the case. So you heard it here, guys. Tony, remember I went to the Michigan game, there was 115,000 people there watching you play, and you say you'd rather be here speaking the gospel and worshiping God in Mass. That's a testament.
Exactly.
That's his testimony.
Yeah.
So,